Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
Oh my God. It's like this one guy called me on the phone. He wanted to start a guitar business. I'm like, dude, I've been out for like 4 years. I don't know the market, but I'll tell you one thing. If you want to fucking do it, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to be talking to me 5 years from now saying, I'm going to go, congratulations. But if you really, really don't want to do it, you're just talking about it, you're going to be out in 4 months.
Yep.
That's
startup in general with.
Right. I mean,
it's the fucking. It's first you got to make the decision that this is exactly what you want to do, and you're gonna be willing to put in the fucking time and effort. That's it.
I was listening to a podcast on the way here. Who the hell fucking was it? Kenneth Cole.
Yeah.
So I was. It's How I Built This, that podcast with Guy Raz.
Yeah.
Or Guy Raz or whatever, and that's what he was talking about. Was the one thing where most people underestimate how long the payoff is.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to quit because you realize after fucking 2 months, like, holy shit, this is going to take 10 more years.
Yeah, exactly. I had this conversation the other
that's
day.
called work.
Yeah. I mean,
that's his big pet peeve.
I mean, that's it. It's just like you got to be willing to fucking go through the shit. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
If you're willing to go through the shit, you'll eventually come out clean on the other side. Mm-hmm. But most people fucking quit when it gets dirty. And that's it.
And so many people quit right before it breaks for them, or could have broken.
Absolutely.
Did you ever feel that? Like,
fuck yeah.
Which part?
I mean, like, did you ever feel at moments that you were tired and exasperated? If you ever felt like giving up, did you ever have that nagging feeling like I can't because I know it's in my reach.
Yeah,
I can taste it. I can taste it.
Ever since starting it, even though it was always the light was at the end of the tunnel, which is how long was the fucking tunnel.
Yeah.
So that's how it is you just look at, you know that you're going to get there, and you just fucking go.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the pandemic and so forth, we talked about, by the way, gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Having both of you together is a real treat. I want to talk about entrepreneurship in the aspect of us coming out of this pandemic at some point. We've talked in detail.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about this subject, and that is Rocco and I are kind of under the general assumption that we look to history, past pandemics, 18, 24 months, it kind of works its way through. We have science on our side, hopefully here with the vaccine, but generally speaking, 18, 20 months, we should be able to start really congregating and doing big things. Being that that's the way it might go, we're not too far away from things getting back in the business end pretty good. Mm-hmm. Folks that have businesses or really are looking at this as being the time that maybe they don't want to work for anybody, they want to start their own business. What are going to be the keys of the current landscape once this breaks? What are the opportunities? I think it's going to be uniqueness more than ever, finding niches, but I want to get both of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'll let you take this one to start.
So I think a lot of it is the same thing that it's just been about building a business in general. And I can compare my clothing brand and then the marketing company, and everything we've done for the clothing has just been different. We started out by not having a storefront. We had a mobile showroom and a Sprinter van.
Right.
So I would park downtown in certain areas in a parking spot, and I would have a pop-up shop instead of I'd pay $4 for the day instead of $4,000 for the month.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I just think innovation and uniqueness is what it's always been.
Yes.
So I think what happens when we're going through this change, you start analyzing decisions you've made in the past. You analyze where you're at, and you step back and say, okay, here's where we're going to be, or here's how society is going to be for X amount of time. Now I really have to make additional changes to get through this. So I think you just hyper focus on being different even more. So you double or triple or quadruple down on just being different.
Okay.
I think that's really what it comes down to more, because any business has to be different to compete, or there's got to be some shtick to them in order to get attention, right? or you just have a massive amount of money, which instantly can get in front of people, right? So that's another option too. It's always, money's always the option for the most part when it comes to making a big splash. Is my thought.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And to add on to that, like, I look at it, to the money play, if you're going to do that, then you become a commodity business, right? I mean, you're a commodity, you're not different. The differentiation of a business I think is what is needed now. And I think this pandemic and this year exposed a lot. And I look at myself and my law firm, it's helped us because I've been able to identify the flaws in my competition. And in seeing that people weren't set up to deal with a shift or a course correction like we've had, and it exposed so many things that they were doing wrong and allowed me to look and say, okay, we don't do that, we're doing this differently, and really hone in on how we are different from other firms. And I think just this pandemic has helped because it's exposed people. I mean, the robe has been opened, and we see where people weren't doing things right or were flawed as a business or as an entrepreneur. And if you were very hyper-focused and able to take a step back and look, I identified so many opportunities this year. And I think it's set myself up and my firm and my team up for massive amounts of success next year because I can see it so clearly now.
Yeah.
That's what this pandemic did for me, I think.
Well, I think with Rocco, what I like to give him kudos to is whenever I met him for my first 3 years in business, I knew that I needed to find legal representation for different projects that were going on. So as you build a business, different things pop up, not necessarily legal troubles, but opportunities, things that you have to do. And I've talked to small firms, I've talked to independent attorneys, and then I've talked to large, massive, $500-700 an hour law firms. And those, obviously the big players, they have a lot that they have to pay for. So the way they have to run their business is so different. But I think the opportunity now where I am growing my business is I look at Rocco and how he's treated me since day one, and it's so simple from the standpoint of just treating people well and being fair to them. And that's why, like, forever, Rocco will always get my business. For when I'm a $100 million business, Rocco's getting his piece of the pie.
I appreciate
and
that.
It's just literally because he did what's right in regards to taking care of people and just treating them well.
That's I mean, you're right, and I think that's a simple concept in business that most people forget.
Yeah.
I mean, we learned that in kindergarten, right? I mean, to treat people with kindness. And I look at it, and I think most successful businesses look at, I don't pull punches with people. If you came to me with an idea that I didn't think was good, I would tell you. I wouldn't take your money to help you. I mean, I didn't think it would work. And I think too many people are quick to grab the dollars instead of looking at the relationship. Like, I look at every transaction, not as a transaction, but as a relationship I'm building with a client, with a friend. I mean, we've become close friends over our relationship, and I think, and you and I have as well. And I think it's the way you treat people. And when you treat people a certain way, things tend to happen, and those types of people tend to gravitate into your circles. And that's when you see exponential expansion in business. I think when people figure that out, right? When you figure out it's really about the way you treat people and the relationships, and you start doing it the right way, in an authentic way, that's when growth happens exponentially. But people get very caught up. They get very egocentric, and I think they don't see it that clearly. And I think this year has helped me really see it a lot more clear, and I know exactly what I need to do over the next 18 months.
I think part of the exposing of people in business during the pandemic has been a part of it has been how truly non-customer centric people were, where they had a good product maybe that was so good they made money in spite of themselves, or the market they were in happened to be flourishing that they didn't have to have exceptional customer service.
Yeah.
But when things got really tight and uncertain and lean for a lot of markets in the pandemic, without customer focus or an idea of what it is to really take care of those who are taking care of you, if you didn't have that, if that wasn't how you're wired, you were really exposed, because it's very obvious now. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. I mean, look what you guys did. I mean, you pivoted, in your business, and I mean, through the pandemic, like I wear your suits. I mean, I
more than I do, actually.
yeah. I mean, appreciate this is one of your jackets right now.
Walk in with a hoodie today.
Yeah, which I love as well. But I think, I mean, and that speaks to like your company, right? So I've watched you guys pivot this year and make it about the customer. You said, okay, we understand that people aren't going to be going out this year. They might not be buying as many suits. So what can we do to really help other types of customers? And you went into the mass business, which I thought was a huge idea and a great pivot. And you did it in a way that, in my mind, it wasn't about money. It was about how do we pivot our business to help a segment of society that needs it right now.
Right.
And that I mean, it was successful for you guys, and I think it's huge.
Well, I was talking to someone the other day, and every single thing since we started the business has literally been how do we help other people.
Yep.
And obviously the purpose of being in business is to be able to support yourself and provide a lifestyle for your team, your family, all that stuff. And then to the extravagance of that lifestyle is dependent on the success of the business.
Right.
But I think the simplest way to look at it is if you can create something, create a product, create a service, and it provides a benefit to other people and you put other people before you, then the rest of what happens is just fantastic gravy that goes on top of it. So at this point, anything else that we succeed or accomplish in building what we're doing, I've already won the jackpot. I've already won the lottery by being able to work for myself and be able to do something every day. Since 2016, I've never had a job.
Right.
And it's cliche and all that stuff, but it's true. And even on other products that we're developing moving forward and other ways that we're going to steer the ship of the business is think about other people. How can we help other people? And even every business that we do, there's charity involved, there's other stuff, because there's so many people out there that they don't have the mental capacity to do things, they don't have the courage, the will, whatever, and I understand that. So if I'm willing to risk whatever I can, I want to help people just because I just want to. And I think that's the magic recipe for any of this stuff.
I remember I got a sales trainer, and basically a sales manager, but also a sales trainer in my career as a young man, gave me that book, and Rocco knows the story. He hands me the book in a meeting. He goes, "You got great personality. You can be exceptional with sales." I'm all excited. He goes, "But you really need to read this book." And it was Zig Ziglar. He goes, and I'm going to tell you now, here's the shortcut. If you get nothing out of this book, open to page 13 and read what's in the caption. And I opened to page 13, sitting there, and it said a simple phrase that has guided me my entire entrepreneurial life, and I believe it. It's not cliche. And it goes, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything.
So true.
And that's it. It really is. And you can take arteries out of that phrase, and service and kindness and all that stuff. But essentially, you don't make it about your own pockets. You put that mission statement together to be of service and value. Everything, just the money will follow along in gobs if you're good enough at helping enough people.
You
don't have to think about it.
No, and it's the simplest piece of advice that so many people get, and it amazes me when we have potential clients call or they want to meet with us and they ask, what do you charge for a consultation? Like, why would I charge for that? I don't even know if I can help you. Like, come in. They're blown away. Like, they don't understand. Like, why? Like, you're not asking for money. but to me, it's like I would never even think to do that. Like, that's just not me. It's like I want to just see if I can help you. It's about the service of others or the service to others. Right. But I've learned so many lawyers out there don't do that. And it's all about my time is valuable. My billable rate's $500 an hour. You need to pay me $500 to come to my office and meet with me. I would feel terrible doing that to someone. And that's a simple guiding principle. Like even what you guys do, right? The fact that I always said to you, what I love about the suits, outside of the quality in this, is that you make it easy.
Sure.
You just come to my office, and I know exactly like
service.
That's it. It's a simple process, and it's made me a lifelong customer because I don't have to think.
Yeah.
You come, however long it takes, you do it, and that's it, and boom, done. And to me, like that's those simple principles in business that, to be successful, like that's what separates the 1% from the 99% in my mind, and people don't get that.
So I think one thing that I think is a big reason why people don't have that mentality is because it starts with stage one and day one of doing the business, right? And whenever you as an entrepreneur are staring at your bank account and looking at certain things, and you see there's $1,000 or $200 or negative $50 or whatever, your fear and your emotions kick in to overdrive, because then you start thinking, okay, how do I survive this, right? So oftentimes human beings, they then get more protective of who they are. So then they tend to be less lenient or less helpful in a situation because they are in so much pain internally, right? So then it's easier to not do those things. And then I go back to when I started my business, there were times where I had to remake a jacket for somebody because something was going on with it. And even if I didn't think it was our fault, say a client lost a bunch of weight and they didn't tell me they were doing that, and then they dropped so much weight or they put on weight or whatever the time frame was, and the jacket wasn't able to be altered, or there was something about it that they decided to change their mindset on, so it was different. I always said, it's okay, I'll handle that. And I'm telling you, even times where I was like, fuck, I have $100 in my bank account, and I'm like, that was real. But this jacket that I have to reorder was $180 or $300. I never one time in my entire existence in business ever did not eat the cost on something. Now,
that's principle.
And my thought was, okay, I trust myself as an entrepreneur enough that I'll fucking figure this out.
That's exactly.
I'll get through it.
Yes.
And even when it was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to get through it. My thought was, I can get through it. This person I'm dealing with could hurt my business, or they'll never buy again, or they'll say one negative thing about me, and that I was just never willing to compromise.
Yeah, and that what you're saying too is it's that scarcity mindset that people have, right? You get in the business and you're like, fuck, like, where's the money coming from? And you start playing defense, right? I mean, I remember when I left corporate America, and I started my firm part-time when I was in corporate America, making good money, multiple six figures, benefits, and I remember came home and I told my wife I'm resigning. Like, I'm doing this on my own. Management changed. I didn't like the way the company was going. I was like, fuck it, I'm doing this. I know I can do it. And I remember that first full month of me being in practice, my revenue was like $5,500. And I was just like, fuck, like, what did I do? But to your point, it's like, I was always willing to bet on myself. Right. And I'm like, you know what? I'm smart enough to figure it out. And I just, it was tough. Like, my wife and I would fight about certain things. And it was tough there for a while, but I encourage anybody out there that's a business owner listening to this, it has those moments. Trust me, if you just keep pushing forward and literally just don't let the scarcity overtake you, you'll eventually succeed. You just have to be willing to keep going. And I had to tell myself many times, like, I know how to do this
every day. It's
just a matter of time. I have to keep going. And now I have a team of, 4 or 5 people that work for me now.
Yeah.
And that's in a 2-year period. So but I had to get past that scarcity mindset. And a lot of entrepreneurs, I think that's where they fell.
Yeah.
And this year has made people fucking super afraid because, I mean, think about it. Businesses have been shut down for no fucking reason. It's just like, you're not essential. Well, yeah, I am. I'm essential to my family. I'm essential to the people that rely on me. Like, these poor restaurants, like, they're getting destroyed.
Again, we're in the process of watching that happen again here.
And that's Christmas. The thing. And and that's what this year has done. And I hope that people come out of this and have taken that ability to learn from this, because I think this year gave us the opportunity to really understand yourself as an entrepreneur, understand yourself as a business owner, and then really understand your business and your competition. I think that's where, if you spent this year understanding what your competition does well and doesn't do well, I think you're set up for success coming out of this. I think this was the opportunity. You had to do that.
Let's talk about the psychological component of this past year, because I think that's, when it comes to entrepreneurs, it's already a good portion mental anyways, right? But that part of the entrepreneurship journey was exacerbated this year. Everything was mental, because a lot of people's businesses were hit or they were shut down, and now there's no process. All there is your headspace. And sadly, I don't think that there was enough critical thinking. We can talk about that in regards to the idea of how we shut these industries down. But for the entrepreneurs themselves, people weren't ready. There wasn't a plan B, C, or D, which, we can say, well, my success is because I only had a plan A. There was no plan for failure. I get it, but you have to have contingencies for any business once it's established and running, right? There wasn't any for a lot of these businesses. Not that they even could have overcome some of the shutdowns and so forth, but there wasn't. People really got in a bad place with their headspace. Yeah. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I think, too, that this pandemic and this whole situation has been more transparent on the mental side of things. I don't think this year is more mental than any other year in business. I don't believe that. I think it paints the picture that, day one of starting a business, how easy it is to go and work and do something. That's not hard. Sure. That's just making a decision as a human being and saying, okay, I'm willing to do this. If you are, great. If not, you're just not fucking disciplined. So go do something else, which is absolutely fine and okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But this year forced you to have conversations every other minute, every other hour with yourself, trying to dissect what's going on. All it did to me was highlight that you really are in a mental battle. And that's the hardest part of anything, is when you get emotions, when you get your mind diving into certain rabbit holes in business and what's happening, and do I focus on this? And then you get sucked into the election shit that was going on, and you waste time focusing on that, not realizing, like, dude, like, that doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. It really doesn't. Now, to an extent, obviously, there's implications of that control certain things or change things, but you are an individual amongst 340 million other people. Yep. Amen. So true. We all know politicians are all corrupt. We all know that stuff. Why waste your time when you're not going to be able to change that? Yeah. Change what you can change, and that's your day to day.
Yeah, especially something that doesn't affect you day in, day out. There's broad decisions made that can affect or steer your business. Yeah. They make crazy decisions, but day in, day out, we've talked about it. Yeah. I made money in Reagan's era, Clinton's era, Bush's era, Obama's era. I have made money in spite of taxes being high, taxes. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's my decision to get up every day.
That's it. And to your point, like, I think it was a mental game this year. Like I know, like, I tend to think I'm a mentally strong person. My head was a fucking mess in the spring, because I'm the type of person, I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from other people. Right. And then the government says, you know what? You've got to stay in your basement and work for fucking 3 months. Like, I was losing my shit because I thrive in environments around people. Like, I was having, 5 to 7 meetings a week with people outside of the office or in my office, to now literally getting up in the morning, going into my basement, working out. And I set up my office in my basement so I had more space. 12 hours a day. I was just living in my basement. It was the worst. And I had to get back to my, personal development roots to kind of find that discipline again, because I slipped off the rails a little bit because it was hard. Yeah. I mean, when you go from, running 90 miles an hour, for a year and a half to, like, just, put on a t-shirt and shorts and just go down in your basement and work. And I mean, worked a lot, but I didn't really have any external energy to feed that. And it came down to really getting that mental discipline back and saying, and I remember it was like in May, when May came, it snapped for me. I'm like, fuck, I'm off course, and I just had to adjust things. And that's kind of when I snapped back. It was like almost like a rubber band snapping. I just had to pull myself back together, and it was hard, but I did it. And it's been a year where I think it taught us a lot about mental discipline. And I think, discipline is such a key to success. It's so simple yet so difficult for people.
It's easy to fall off.
Absolutely.
It's harder to get in the routine and get started, and it takes 2 days to fall out of a routine. Yeah, maybe one day.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the shitty part. And Rocco and I talked last week, and I've put on 15 pounds, 11 pounds, something like that in the last month and a half. And because I'm like, fuck, it's getting cold. I'll throw a hoodie on. Like,
no, that's the same with me. I'm like, my head looks like a fucking bowling ball these days. I'm like, God, man.
And you don't have to go in front of anybody. Right? So for me, like, it's whatever. And then then you start suffering. Then you're not working as hard. Then you're not happy. You're just,
it's a snowball.
Yeah, it crushes you. And I think that's why that mental discipline and that's, holding yourself accountable for certain things is so important. Yep. And honestly, until this Monday, I started dieting again. I started working out routinely again. So now I'm not there yet. I wanted to ride the bike this morning. I didn't do it, but I'll do it later today. But I want to get back in the routine of I get up, I do this, I do this, I do this, and I have my structure because that's when I feel like I'm unstoppable.
Yeah. And structure is something that and I even felt myself, like even this year, I've grown a lot in business this year, but I know, and I was just having this, I work with a business coach and we meet every Thursday, and we had this discussion yesterday. We were talking about like recapping the year, the good, the bad. And I said, I know like business was great, but I know what lacked, and I got away from some of my structure.
Yeah.
And I know that, okay, like I've kind of set course for now next, coming into next year, the certain pieces of the structures of my day that I used to do that I've gotten away from just because I've gotten busy.
Right.
I said I have to get back to building that back in because that's when I thrive.
Yeah.
And I know that I got away from that, and that comes down to just making those decisions. And it's something that I think this year has taught me a lot about, and it's been interesting.
Man, I got a similar story. Banner year last year. And we during a year that we started this show too, so everything was running full tilt going into January, and January started out with a bang, listings, and I was pulling my hair out. I was so busy, and then shut down. And I'm a guy that's never home. I don't watch television unless it's baseball. You won't find me watching television. Now I'm pretty much confined to the house. Can't do any business, and so then I said, okay, I'm going to work out then. At least I'm going to go for these walks. I end up hurting my ankle, so now I can't walk, I can't work, and all I got's the television. So after about a couple of weeks of and starting to resume, I got to resume shows.
Yeah.
So we did a show, I think, were you in the other room?
It was a social distance show.
And before I had this conversation with Rocco, he's lamenting about some of the struggles he was having. Like, I got to get my head out of my ass. And I've had going through the same thing. And after talking with you, like, you know what, I got to figure something out. So all I said to myself was I was going to go home and do what I can do. What I can do at that time was start focusing on myself, whether it was the weight, getting in shape, changing my diet. Then the rest will work itself out. And it kind of has. But I think the time that I spent working on me has made the rest of the year so much better. Had I not done that, had I just stayed in, because I'm a lazy sod at times. I can, like I was watching British sitcoms on television. I was so bored. But that decision to not be idle was one of the best decisions I've probably ever made in my life. Not to let that time take me down a road that I didn't want to go.
This was a year for people to personally grow more than they realize.
I think so.
Right, and I think there are people that are probably still sitting around and, hey, this is a vacation. I get to change my life a little bit. I don't have to drive to the office. So they stop doing certain things. If you were disciplined enough to dissect yourself and decisions you've made and really be critical of yourself, which is really, really difficult. I think the monumental growth that you're going to, earn from this, and just trying to get better and more structured and not going down that rabbit hole, I think is exponentially better than any other year.
Oh, absolutely. And I've watched people in my circles that have grown a lot and have just not done anything. And I'm thinking to myself, eventually we're going to get back to normal, and then what? Like, if you took this year off,
just steps behind,
right? Because my belief, I always say that you're either growing or you're dying. There's no staying the same. Life moves too fast. Information moves too fast. You don't stay the same. You either get better or you get worse every single day. And I always say my goal was to be 1% better than I was yesterday. And you had those moments this year where I definitely, I was backsliding, but I think this was a huge opportunity of a year. And and I look back hoping that I took advantage of it. And I'm sure I could have done more. But now I know that this year opened up a lot of perspective for me. It helped me get really. What's interesting is I had more time this year, but I got way more laser focus on certain things. I just got rid of so many distractions. And you would think that because we had so much time, you couldn't really do anything. There were so many things to be distracted by. Where it taught me to really say, well, no. These are the two things that I should be focused on, and that's it, and become really laser focused, and everything else just kind of went away. And it was interesting because the picture or the journey that I see ahead of me for my business as an entrepreneur, as a lawyer, has become so clear. All because I just took that time to get rid of stupid distractions.
Right.
And I feel like people, because we're entrepreneurs, you chase the rabbit, right? It's a great idea. Let's go there. And I did that for years. Like, I was always chasing different ideas, and I finally got to the point, I'm like, nope, gotta just focus on these two things. And it opened up my eyes, so wide, and I'm so clear and focused now as to where I want to go and where the path we're on. It's been amazing, definitely.
Yeah, I think the year was an opportunity, just like next year will in the prior year. An opportunity is an opportunity. There are circumstances around the opportunity which might not be favorable to you, but it's still an opportunity. What you do with that time, it's no different than before the pandemic, because you could have been a lazy sod before the pandemic.
Yep.
Be a lazy sod during the pandemic. It's still an opportunity. It's just it had to be fine-tuned based upon the restrictions that were put on you. You had to figure it out. And I using the word strong is probably not fair, but the strong-minded or the strong-willed, they did that.
Right.
And those who broke, I feel bad for them. I do. But we were all in the same circumstance.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to. There's got to be something internally to get you through. We all have that.
Yep.
We choose to use it or not, it's another story.
Yeah.
The word you said is choice. It's everything. You and I had this discussion last week. Everything's a choice. You can choose to do it or not. It's everything in life boils down to a decision. I can decide to be disciplined, or I can decide to be lazy. It's not I'm lazy, I'm deciding to be lazy. And I think if you start talking to yourself that way, and getting that headspace right, where that, okay, I'm either choosing to be disciplined and work out or eat well, or I'm choosing to be a lazy piece of shit. When you say that to yourself, I think it flips something in your head. Because if I just say, well, I don't feel like doing it, I'm not really telling myself I'm making a choice. I'm just not going to do it. If I say I'm choosing not to work out because I want to be a lazy piece of shit, I'm gonna be like, fuck that. No, that's not who I am. And it flies in the face of who I believe myself to be.
Right.
So it makes it very easy for me to get back on course, because I told myself I'm choosing to be something I'm not. And we've got to look at that. Like, I think if you take this year and say, not what happened to me, what choices did I make this year?
Right.
And analyze that, I think you'll learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, you cannot let the external factors take control. But that goes for pandemic, non-pandemic.
Yeah.
That goes back to the history of American business, right?
E plus R equals O. The best formula for life. That's it. Jack Canfield.
I know.
Event plus reaction equals an outcome. You always control a variable.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. If you follow that principle, you'll be fine.
Back to the uniqueness thing, because especially with your business too, being that it's in fashion and design. At what point did you realize in your career that you had to find out what separated you from everybody else doing what they're doing? Was it, even if it was it product, was it process, was it image? Like, what was the thing that in your mind initially, and how'd that mature?
I think a big thing for us was, where I personally looked at it was, I knew that I could provide a better service than anybody else.
Okay.
And why I thought that was because my former life in medical sales, my customer service was just incredible. I was always ahead of people. I would always check in on people. I was a very big proponent of the relationship game. I was never the best sales rep.
So you got it.
I think I just naturally understood that people want to be taken care of.
Right.
And I just like people. I genuinely do. I like Rocco said, I like being out and about. I like shaking hands. I like helping people. So I was never a top sales rep in medical. My goal was, okay, if I can make $250,000 a year, then if I worked another 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, I could probably make another $100,000. But for me, I was like, I really like my life. I have a lot of flexibility. I have a lot of freedom.
And lifestyle.
Yeah. So that was the big difference then, was I was like, okay, cool. I'm working for somebody else. It's a job, making great money, and I could be kind of lazy, but as long as my customer service is good, I can fly under the radar, make a shit ton of money, and have a great life. And that was where my mind really was. And then whenever I got into my business, I realized, okay, now that I am by myself working for myself, I love this even more because now it's truly in my control. So the option wasn't, can I be lazy anymore? The option was, if I'm going to do this, I have to do everything I possibly can to be successful.
Okay.
So that's now customer service. That's now taking it to the next level on certain things and just work ethic. And so starting my business and moving forward, I use my customer service and just treating people well philosophy with gaining clients' trust.
Okay.
And I just said, okay, I can network. I know I can get in front of people. How much can I do that? So then you start splashing the component of the celebrity that I had. That was early on, really, before I even had a business. You know, I didn't have an EIN, didn't have a company name or anything. I started working with celebrities and athletes. So that was where the two roads met. And I was like, okay, so now I have celebrities, which celebrities equal eyeballs.
Right.
And I have customer service, and the feedback early on was, hey, this is actually cool shit. So I just slowly said, okay, let's merge the two of those. And now I have a great product, or a good product at that time. I knew it wasn't where I wanted it to go, and I have celebrities to help get eyeballs on this. And that was really the aha moment of like, damn, like, okay, there's something here.
Right.
And I knew at that point I could take it to a very successful business. Time frame didn't matter. I was never in a rush to do any of this stuff.
And you still feel that way. Not that there's not goals.
No.
You know, and I understand that. We talked about that. But you do have that patience component.
You
right?
have to. I'm not where I want to be financially right now. Like, ideally, I'd like to be going around to different businesses and dropping a $10,000 bill and at the front desk of the business to help them through the pandemic, right? That's where I want to be at a point financially. That's where I really will believe I'm successful. And not that I don't think I am, but I'm not anywhere near where I want to go.
Yeah.
But I've also realized that I'm 35. I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been trying to be an entrepreneur for 10 years. So I love what I do every single day. I honestly don't care if I never make tens of millions of dollars. I don't care. Do I think I'm going to? For sure. Do I think it's going to be soon? Absolutely. And that's just me saying, hey, for 5 years in business, this is the trend. Well, if I keep doing what I'm doing, now it's just a math equation.
Yeah, that's it.
Keep doing this, and here's the timeline. Okay, cool. In another 5 years, we're going to be in a really great spot.
Right.
So I've set the foundation of my business now to as long as we stay true to what we're doing, continue to grow that. But if something happens, God forbid, in another year, 2 years, 6 months, and I'm just able to live my life and provide for myself and start a family and all that stuff, and one vacation a year instead of whenever I want,
Right.
I still win.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's mindset.
It is.
That's mindset, because I can tell you that when I was your age at that time, 20 years ago, things were good for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was just starting to become an entrepreneur, but I didn't have that mindset. It was all in the beginning. We talked. It was money driven.
Yeah.
Everything was money driven.
Yeah.
And I found out right away that was okay. But I was making money not because of really my skill. It was the market I was in, and timing and so forth.
Right.
But it really wasn't because of my skill level. And then when the market tightened up, and then 9/11 happened and things like that, and it got tight, I realized, I really need to refine what is my game.
Yeah.
How am I unique? What can I bring to the table that's different that these guitar buyers can't get elsewhere?
Yeah.
Right. So
I was always money driven when I worked for somebody else.
Yeah.
And when I
Amen.
started my own business, money was the absolute last interest of mine.
I didn't get there initially. It was I had a little seed money, so I was money driven in the beginning because I could, but then things got lean.
No, I mean, and I was, when I left corporate and started my practice, I was money driven. I said, I have a family. I know what I need to make every month to support the family, and I was shooting for that number, and I was always kind of hitting around that number. The moment I started working with the business coach I work with, Mike, and he kind of got me to say, just who gives a shit about the money?
Right.
Become the best fucking lawyer there is.
Right.
And the moment I just stopped worrying about the money, my revenue 5x'd. So it wasn't about the number
it's
anymore.
so hard to It was not hard to really convey to somebody that
hard.
concept, though. Really?
So I don't want to say I wasn't ever money driven, because you have a certain amount of monthly debt that you have to pay.
Yes.
So I was always focused or understanding of where I needed to be financially. But on top of that, whatever came in additional was reinvested back into the business. So I stopped going out. I stopped drinking 3 or 4 years ago because I couldn't afford it. So I started doing things differently. So I was always money motivated from that standpoint. You got to live.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
But then, early on, it was just like, no, I don't care. I literally don't. I don't care now. Like, 5 years ago when I was in medical, I was 25 years old, 24, driving a Porsche. Like, I bought a house at 24, then bought a second one at 26, and it was just spending money frivolously. And I was going on vacations, golfing all over the country, and doing whatever the hell I wanted because I could. But if that never happens again, I just don't care.
Yeah.
And that was hard because I used to. You're driving down the car, and I'd be in, I'm in the Sprinter van driving right now, and then someone pulls up next to you in a badass car, and the mindset now is fuck yeah, good for that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
So was there a moment where you started to switch that mindset? Did it or just evolve over a couple of years?
I think it just evolves because when you taste shit for so long, and you realize like for no lie, for 6, 8, 10 months, I was eating peanut butter and jelly Ezekiel bread sandwiches and Granny Smith.
I still eat Ezekiel bread.
I
like
do too.
Ezekiel bread
I do
too.
too.
I just had some the other day.
Good stuff.
And then I had
absolutely.
Granny Smith
stuff.
apples, and that was
on
what
the sandwich or
separately.
Okay,
separately.
I put them on the sandwich.
I've actually never done
It's
that.
good, man. Trust me.
But yeah, I was just like, cool. This is my life.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't take anybody out on dates. I didn't do things, and I was used to, hey, we have money, cool. If I want to treat myself, I'll go have a steak dinner. Then to, hey, for the next 6 weeks, it's eggs, Ezekiel bread. It's whatever I can scrape by to not spend money.
Yeah.
And I still live my life that way. Like, I had to tell my girlfriend the other day, like, hey, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. I have 3, 4 projects coming on. I want to do this. I want to do this. The holidays are here.
Right.
We are, and thankfully restaurants, well, not thankfully, but restaurants are closed now. So it helps me not spend money.
Right.
But it's all shuffling things around at whatever time.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And I think that's, to your point, I think it becomes an evolution as an entrepreneur. I think every entrepreneur goes through their own journey and their own battles. Like I know what mine was. I kind of know the moment when it all shifted for me.
Can you share that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really when I started working with the coach. It's just like he called me on my bullshit. It was the first time I worked with someone that he's like a 20-year-old older version of me. Same fraternity. Like, it's just crazy how the similarities. Like, same background growing up, and he called me on my bullshit. Like, he's like, you're just saying that shit to yourself. I'm like, you're fucking right. Like, you're right. Like, I'm just making excuses for myself. And it was to have somebody do it in a way that was very to the point. Like, I'm a straight shooter. I'm a blunt person.
Right.
No one was ever, I didn't really have it. Because, not to sound like an egotistical prick, but like in a lot of my social circles and friends, like, I'm the one that's the leader. Like, I'm the one putting the plans together. I have
It's how
really
you're wired, though, as a human.
Yeah, but I have like good friends that'll call me on my bullshit too, but not to the extent that someone has a totally objective viewpoint of me.
Got it.
And it was just like a smack in the face, and I'm like, fuck, like, yeah, like, this is, and that's when I literally started looking at the world differently. It was just that one moment. I'm like, it's not about money. It's about being the best possible business lawyer that I could be. The moment that shifted, new clients came. I just started operating in the world differently, looking at the world differently, speaking to clients differently, speaking to people differently, and it changed everything. And now I look at it, I have a team of people that I'm responsible for. So it's given me this different, even a higher perspective now on the way to operate. But it was that I needed someone, and I'm fortunate that I met him. I met him in New York. I was speaking at an event in New York. He was one of the other speakers there. We just had lunch one day. We're just sitting there talking. He followed up with me. Something about him, I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I've been working with him for 2 years, and it's the best money I spend every month.
I was in the guitar business I started in '99, and right around 2002, I guess, I went through a divorce. And tough. Kids were young, tough, very amicable, but just tough.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to myself, your load of bullshit is not going to work as a divorced dad running a fledgling business in a medium, which was the internet at that time. It was non-defined. Had no coaches because there was no coaches that could coach me in that stuff. So I had so off went the sports car, in came the Astro van. Off went some of the watches I had collected, in came the money to buy inventory. A seismic change in my life happened that I need to get my lifestyle in order because it wasn't reflective for where I really was in life. It was a show. And number two, it wasn't serving me well mentally, and it wasn't serving me well financially because that was money better used buying inventory and so forth. One of the biggest decisions, and I remember driving this Astro van, picking up my kids and feeling an inner peace. I was at peace with myself finally that I am now going to live who I really am. And man, it wasn't all material related, but somewhat. And once I embraced that, then everything just started falling into place. And I look at that moment of having the humility to realize, quit believing your own bullshit.
It's
and my mentors came from like personal development, Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, and really, which I take a lot of personal pride that I've sought out those folks. You know, they're theoretical people that I'd never met, but I sought out that material because I was lost. You know, but just those were the type of people that kind of kicked me in the ass and said, you know, what the hell are you doing?
I feel like everybody needs that. I think as an entrepreneur, we all need that moment. And I think to really become successful in life or in business, you have, it's that come to Jesus moment, right? It's that like, I can't keep believing my own bullshit. And it was, you know, I look at, and I was just having this discussion the other day with the guys I work with. I said, you know, because they're younger than me. And I said, you know, 34 to 36 is really when I started to figure things out as a man, right? As a business
sometimes
owner,
it takes that long.
It does. It really does.
Sometimes people don't ever.
Exactly. They really don't. And it was that was kind of like, you know, 30 was kind of like, oh shit, I'm 30. Like I'm old now. And then you kind of get, you know, I had my, well, we're young. We're young.
I feel very young. I'm gonna tell you, I feel very young.
Exactly. But that mid 30s is really when I figured out myself as a man. But it was like coming into 40 is where I started to figure things out in business. And then having that really, you know, come to Jesus, look yourself in the face moment. I think everybody has to go through it to get to that next level in business, to really have that exponential growth as a person or as a business. You've got to have that moment where you can look yourself in the face and be like, I can't do this anymore. I got to do it differently and understand.
Could you have done this 10 years ago at 25? Were you mature enough?
No, I started at 24. I started a necktie company with 3 business partners back then, and I think, you know, the quote or whatever, the darkest storms bring the lightest sunlights or whatever that is, and I don't think until you're kicked in the ass and you're fucking, it feels like you're being held underwater, you know, an inch below the top of the surface, and there's a child holding you down that you should easily be able to get up, but you can't, right? It feels that painful to you that you just want to die. I mean, maybe not for everybody, but like there were times where I was like, take the insurance policy, you know, if I die, fuck, at least the insurance covers my debt. At least the insurance doesn't put that money to my parents who didn't believe in me when I started, right? Those were things that I thought, but the darkest feelings allowed me to appreciate the dollar, the value of a dollar a million times more. I mean, had I felt like this 30 out of 35 that I did at 24, I would have never bought a Porsche. I never would have did what I did with houses or traveled, and now I appreciate the value of being debt free. Of, you know, I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way there. And you see things differently, and understanding that, okay, that $500 that I'm doing here, of course, you know, let me step back. I'm one to enjoy life. So I don't believe in putting money away for when I'm 80. I just, at this point, I don't. All my extra value goes back into businesses that I'm doing. I will, in the next 5 years, I probably won't have much money in the stocks because I want to invest in myself, and I trust that more than anything, and I think the return is going to be far greater. But you have to enjoy the process as well to get there, because I wouldn't be enjoying my life to the capacity that I am now. But again, the value of a dollar, an extra $500 a month, extra $1,000 a month could be inventory, could be reinvesting in this, could be buying podcast equipment, could be reinvesting in the van, paying for brakes on that. So you look at things differently, and then you realize business is an art. Yeah. It's an art.
Absolutely.
It's 100%. A fucking art.
Yeah, it really is.
How about that? That's a good statement. That's a good statement.
Business is so easy. It is the easiest thing I've ever done in my entire life. But I would have never understood how easy it was if I didn't make all the wrong decisions to start.
Absolutely, yes. That's it. I mean, you have to make failure. You have to go failure to failure till you hit success. Because if like you said, it is an art form, right? I mean, you have to, like, anybody can go to law school and get a law degree, right? And you can, if you study hard enough, you can pass the bar exam.
Right.
To build a law firm in the way that we've done it, I had to find the art form to do that. I had to find the nuances that separated us from everybody else. And that took a long time and a lot of sleepless nights and, 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. But I love it. Like, I love the process, because it is like you're painting something, you're building something. Right. And then when you can take that step back, and I can take a step back now and look, I've got, 4 people working for me that a year ago it was just me and my assistant. And it's just like, it's like, wow, I've painted this picture and I feel like I'm just getting started. And it's an interesting thing in that art form, and into your, like, that dark storm. I think that's an important part of the process too.
You need it.
Understanding the darkness. We talked about the order and chaos, like Jordan Peterson talks about, like understanding the dark side of yourself and the dark side of life, and how to navigate through that, but harness it in a way that makes the order much more powerful. It's an art form. It really is.
Yeah, well, you talk about it in your book, and we talked about it, I think, on the very first podcast. You have to, if you don't acknowledge the darkness will eat you alive.
Absolutely it will.
And I think as humans, we tend to, I think the observation that I have is that we tend to label darkness negative, light positive. That's, those terms can screw with the way that you view the process, because you're almost trying to eliminate the darkness as it shouldn't be there. I'm gonna will that out of my life. Yeah. It's once you acknowledge that that's part of life,
exactly,
and you have to learn to maneuver.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the duality of man, right? It's when you and I went through that journey, like understanding that darkness, and that was a powerful journey, and it helped me understand a lot about myself that I had no idea was there.
So I was talking to a buddy of mine who, Sean Perrick, very successful entrepreneur, and he said something the other day, and it was just like, holy shit, it's true. So think about any true entrepreneurs that you work with. When you get together, when you talk with them, how often are you talking about the success? Never.
Right, exactly. You're right.
You literally talk about the worst experiences that you've ever been through.
Yeah. Right.
You talk about how hard those experiences were, how much they crippled your mind and your life and everything that you consume. Yep. But then you circle back and say, thank God I went through that shit.
Amen.
Absolutely.
It was the best thing that could have happened to me to define who I am, to define the direction that I'm going, and to define the future of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the successes I have. I don't.
Yeah.
They're cool. Yeah. I don't care. I just don't.
Oh, man.
I want to talk about the shit that I've been through. When I wanted to die, when I didn't know who to call, when I was alone in my house, or when I'm driving to a client in February and it's 6 degrees outside and it's 10 o'clock on a Sunday, knowing that I'm going to get there and the suit's not going to fit. That's the shit that I want to talk about, because that is what has built pride in what I've done, and that is what's allowed me to say, keep fucking going.
Yes, I love it, man. That's so true.
It's the best feeling. The negative shit is the best thing you go through. There's no
question.
What you grow and understand as a person, the pain that you go through, then you realize on the other side of that pain is what brings you alive, and it makes you thrive on how nasty the journey is and how hard it is.
Yeah.
But then you also become invincible, because you're like, fuck, if I got through that, man, what else? And we're getting through a global pandemic right now.
Right.
We gave $25,000 away in a year that we lost $800,000 in revenue.
Yeah,
It's very
absolutely.
impressive.
It's, and I don't mean it from that.
No, but,
it's just,
but I'm
right.
telling you
No,
on
I
this
appreciate
show,
that.
Yeah,
it is very
absolutely.
impressive.
it's just like that's what I try to get out there to these entrepreneurs that are up and coming. Like that, when you get joy out of that,
Yep.
Right.
man,
Right.
bring it on.
Yeah.
Like bring it on. I'm cool.
So true, man. It's so true.
Two important lessons that I had that kind of coincide with this was when we started Bogey Street, we were doing a lot with Washburn Guitars out of Chicago, a big manufacturer. And naturally, because we made such a big investment in them, that we were selling gobs of guitars, designing stuff. Now, we were still competing with other dealers who where Washburn might have been part of their business. They might have 5 other guitar companies. We only had 1. So naturally, we're their biggest dealer by default because we're only working with them and we're also doing big things.
Yeah.
So we would get these award plaques and things. They would, top dealer of the world in 2005 and top dealer of the States. And I remember calling the president of the company going, stop. Save the money you're spending on award. I appreciate it, but that kind of stuff never resonated. We had boxes of stuff that we would get, Customers would send us letters and T-shirts. Now, we'd hang that stuff up because the customer reaffirmation that they loved us and what we were doing and their satisfaction was what we valued. But I really thought something was wrong with me for a while because people around me were thinking, you're really not enjoying the fruits. You're not, you need to stop and smell the road. You're at like these concert venues and bands that you grew up with. You're handing guitars to rock stars and then you just like walk away and 2 days later you don't even talk about it. I'm like, it wasn't that I was putting on airs. I was depressed. I don't think. I just literally didn't see value in reveling in it. And when I spoke with people about it, I'd have to revel in it again. And I didn't view it as being productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Because
No.
people thought I needed to go to see a head shrinker because I wasn't enjoying my life.
You already did it. It was over and done with. You already won.
Yes.
Yeah,
So why talk about it? Yeah.
satisfied, and I had the photos.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I photographed everything.
Yeah. Yep.
So to me, I captured the moment. Click, I captured it, but it's past. I'm on to the next thing, and that's the entrepreneur's curse. I'm told. Because
it's so funny.
Right? I mean,
I'm laughing about this because I've had this exact discussion because. In this journey with my coach, he would say to me, like, you never stop in celebrate
Smell
the
the
wins.
roses.
Like, you never like if I win awards or something, he's like, you're like cool, and you go on to the next thing. I'm like, that's just how I'm wired, right? It's nice and I appreciate it, and it validates things that I've done. But to me, it's like, what's next? Like it's what, and it is that curse.
it is kind of it's like a step on the ladder.
Exactly.
Like,
yes. Yes. That's exactly it.
We would get one project with this artist, which you and I would probably have some good war stories. Different thing, but kind of the same.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
We had B-level musicians, bands that are doing a certain level, and then the guitar company would not hire them. They would contract with them, and then we designed guitars with them. But they were B-level status, and I figured we did enough B-level status. We're ready for the A.
Yeah.
And then when the A started coming, and it only takes a couple.
Yep.
Paul Stanley Kiss was the apex.
Yeah.
It was like boom, and it was great. Reveled in it, but what was the next project? We'd do one project with him, and it would sell out. Okay, and people were happy. I was happy. But what's the next thing? I think that what is the next thing keeps successful entrepreneurs going.
Yeah.
That mindset. What is the next thing?
Well, and I think to that, look at like the cliche thing about macho guys, right? And then they're like, hey, I could fight that guy, I could beat his ass, blah blah blah. There's always someone out there that can beat your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Always, right?
Absolutely. My son would beat my ass.
Right.
My wife just told me that she was over at her house, and she's like, he's bigger than you. I'm like, motherfucker.
Oh, I believe that.
So think about that, right? There's always somebody bigger than you. There's always somebody stronger than you. There's always someone better than you. Okay.
Right.
So now parlay that into what you just talked about with people you meet. Okay, you may meet somebody from this band or that band, or I may do suits for this celebrity or that celebrity, but okay, now there's other celebrities that are coming that are going to be bigger, better.
It's a stepping stone.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Even the biggest name in the world, there's somebody
Still,
that's going to pass them.
Exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And if you don't have that mindset, then the next suit company is going to come in there and kick my ass. You know, so the minute I say, okay, cool, I can appreciate this, then now what? Now you already lost.
And I think as entrepreneurs, right, we create that sense of urgency. And I know myself, like, that's why I don't stop and smell the roses as much as I probably should, because I feel like, am I going to let somebody get ahead of me? And it's that, like, if I stop and pause for a moment and say, no, I'm going to take some time off to just celebrate this win, who's going to come after my market and who's going to take my position? So I'm always...
But is that healthy?
No. It's not. I'm going to be honest. Like, no, it's not, because I know myself. Like, I know that there are times where I run so hot that I just hit the fucking wall.
Yeah.
And I have that day or two where I don't do shit because I've been running super hard for a long time. But so I know I have to find that balance, and that's something that I struggle with, and that's the most unhealthy part of me, that I struggle finding that balance. And I always believe that life is completely out of balance.
Why do you think it's unhealthy?
Well,
it's
it's a good question.
I'm not saying it is. I'm asking the question.
No, but I think maybe unhealthy is the wrong word. It can get unhealthy if it goes uncontrolled.
Yeah.
Where I think, I've done pretty well knowing when I'm too far off the rails and I can pull myself back on. But there have been other times where, like, I know I just hit the wall because I've just been running too hot. And it's being able to find that balance and be able to self-regulate.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing as an entrepreneur, I think, is the ability to self-regulate, to know that I probably shouldn't get involved in this project because it's going to just push me over the edge, or I should get involved in this. It's kind of understanding that, and it's unhealthy is probably not the right word.
Yeah.
It's just it can be a distraction. It can, and I always my fear is that if I slow down, or if I take a moment to just breathe, someone's going to figure out what I'm doing and do it better. So that kind of motivates me to just keep going. And that's...
Well, I can relate.
I mean, you're in real estate, right? And it's a competitive marketplace, right? So you do things differently. Like, you've created a brand for yourself that's different. And I'm sure you probably go through that same thought process, right?
There's part of it. I did feel it. I feel it a little bit in real estate, but not as much. I think there's a point of my own personal maturity in terms of just age.
Sure. Okay.
That I am very comfortable in my own skin right now, to the point where I just don't give a fuck if someone doesn't dig me. I'm just not not the right realtor for them, right? And enough people do, so I do okay. Yep. But in the prior life, when we were designing guitars and we were in a competitive market that wasn't very crowded in the beginning because the internet was new, and like, I knew that this wasn't rocket science. Somebody could come along and to say, wow, look what Boogie Street's doing. We could do that with this guitar company. I was always paranoid that, and it was paranoia that somebody's going to create a better mousetrap than me.
Yeah.
And so that was tough to deal with. Now, eventually, once we had enough success, I was able to breathe and kind of like start developing that attitude. I don't care. Yeah. But early on, it was the point where I was worried about someone coming and stealing my cheese.
So Rock and I talked last week about order and chaos, which he mentioned briefly, a minute ago. And I didn't even follow up with you. I just had this kind of epiphany within the last couple of days. And so I live the life of complete chaos, right? And the other end of that is complete order. So those are two ends of the spectrum that are very different than one another. And they say the most successful people are able to control both of those. You do enough of each and you fly in the middle, and that's where the most success lies. And I certainly believe and agree to that to an extent. One of my closest friends and business partner, we were talking the other day, he's the complete opposite of me. He is 1,000% order and 0% chaos. And he's, we were talking, he's like, where I think you need to get better is getting more order, more structure. And to an extent, I agree. I need to be better at certain things.
But you're a creative, man.
Right. So
that's tough.
So where I kind of had the aha moment is it ate away at me, because the conversation him and I had really, it wasn't an attack, but it was a dissection of my character and who I am. And really, it got emotional. I started crying on the phone a little bit as I'm talking through it, as I'm listening to him say these things about me. And it really ripped me apart. And not that there was any malice or any intention. It was just hearing someone say some things about you as a person, and then thinking about those, and then saying, fuck, are these true? Is this really the situation or whatever? So then a couple days pass, and then he sends me another an article that was like the top 7 successes of a CEO, or the top successful CEOs. These are the 7 tips or whatever. I start reading through them, and I'm going through them, and I'm like, okay, cool. I believe a little bit of this, not all of it. And so he's like, what I do is I block off time for this. I do this. And he's like, the top CEOs that are that are running these $1 billion or $100 million companies are the ones that are, hey, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I have this. Then that same CEO is sitting there taking notes, doing this, doing that, getting ready for the next thing. And then the other day it just hit me. I was like, I don't want to be CEO. That's not who I am. Fuck that.
Yeah.
And I was like, the reason things are going the way they are is because I am an entrepreneur, and it is because I thrive in the wild and the chaos. And do I understand that more structure needs to be in my life? For sure, absolutely. And I work on that, but I don't want to be in a clothing business. I don't want to be in a marketing business if I'm structured as the CEO. That's not me. Yeah. And that's something I didn't talk to you about. And it really was my, okay, cool. Thank you for the advice.
Yeah.
Not fuck off, but fuck off, because this is me. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And that's where I just like any situation, I want advice from people.
Yep. No doubt.
And I want to hear from people that I believe in, that I trust, and that I respect. But then once the advice comes to me, I just chew it up and I spit it out and I ignore it and I do what I want to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think, and I know who you're talking about. I know who you're the business partner. I know the ordered one. Absolutely. I mean, it's very apparent. And I think, I'm kind of like you, right? Like, there is an order in my life, but I thrive in chaos. Like, that's just how I am, to the point where I had to learn to control it, because if things were going too well, I would just throw a bomb in my life just for the fuck of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I need something to fix.
I love it.
But I had to learn that about myself to prevent myself from doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
Just like fucking stuff up for the sake of fucking it up. Like, everything would be going well, and I'm like, you know what? This is just too easy.
Yeah.
Just throw a grenade in the middle of the room, be like, I'll just pick up the pieces. And so to you, so I look at, I think you can be a CEO differently. Like, I look at how I run my business, right? I am the CEO of my firm, but part of me is creative, where I want to empower my team to do certain things, let them have certain order, let me be the one that thrives in the chaos, that I know that in what we do, when the shit hits the fan, I'm the dude grabbing the sword and going on the front line. Like, that's where I thrive.
Right.
Like, when there's the chaos. Like, if things are going easy, I can do that, but it's not fun to me.
Right.
It's when the shit gets difficult and the battle's coming, that's where I want to be on the front lines. And that's kind of how I like to run my company. So I think you can find the balance.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like, the order and chaos, the most successful people straddle it, and they do, and you have to learn to do it. And it's not a perfect art, but it's, I'm like you, like, I like chaos. Chaos is part of life.
Yeah, and it could be, I think whenever I initially interpreted, the order of chaos, and I initially interpreted it as you got to be 50-50 down the middle, right? Yeah. And no, it could be 60-40, it could be 70-30.
Exactly right. Yep.
So there's a split that it could be. It just should never be 100 and 0, and that's really the what I grasp, as I dissect myself to try to grow.
100%. I'm doing I'm not like these two gentlemen. I am a sole proprietor, just me. And I'm installing a new CRM in my business. So laborious to sit there and enter the name. I've been working off of like the backs of napkins, placemats, notebooks. Just as I'm not saying that's ideal, and I'm not recommending that to anybody, but it's done pretty well for me. My own system works pretty good, but I'm trying to become more organized. But the whole fly by the seat of my pants thing, and with very minimal, of course we keep numbers and that kind of stuff, the remedial stuff, but the day in, day out, if you give me an app on my phone to organize my life, I won't even open that thing. There's just the part of me that just runs this way, and is where most people probably can't, or they look at that and say, I can never do that. It just works for me. So that little bit of chaos is how I know. Now, you need to refine that, and I'm sure my life will be less stressful. I'm trying to figure that out, but man, changing who you are as a person, how you are wired, is not easy.
No.
It's an everyday work in progress.
Absolutely.
Every day. For the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and it's a constant growth and evolution. It will be to the point you were talking about earlier, like when do you know you're successful, right? To me, it's like I'll never be successful in my mind because I'm always moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
And I look at it like that, but that's how I'm wired, right? I don't ever want to say, well, when I get to here, I'm good.
Right.
Like it's like no, like what's next? It's what's next. So it's kind of like it's an evolution. As
That's
an
how you
entrepreneur.
grow.
Yeah,
It's the only
exactly.
way to
That's
grow.
exactly it. And chaos is part of that because I believe if your life is too ordered, you're just following the path you created for yourself. Where I think to
paint
grow,
by numbers.
yeah, to grow, you have to not put this plan in place and follow. It's like you have to go into the unknown. You have to walk down the dark alley and come out the other side with scars and with bruises, and that's how you grow, and that's how you can go into that bigger battle. I think too many people that want so much order and discipline in their lives, it's just they'll be successful, but they'll never, I believe, will never reach that level of exponential success.
Right.
Well, I don't think you'll find a lot of really analytical, anal retentive, super orderly people in business for themselves. They just because
Correct.
being an entrepreneur, it requires a bad term, but thinking out of the box requires that, and it requires creativity, flexibility. Looking at the gray areas of life, you just have to be able to do that as an entrepreneur. You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
No, you got to have guts. Like
That's the whole other part of the equation.
But that people don't understand
Risk.
that. Like that's an understated thing. Like people just think, oh, I could just do. I'm like, no, like you've got to be able to really take on some risks to the point where you're going to throw up one day.
Yeah, I
Like,
love
it's-
that. See,
but it's the truth. People don't get it.
I should be a degenerate gambler, which I don't gamble at all, but I have that mentality
Same
where I
here.
just don't care. I'll try anything once, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I will fail a lot, but it's those moments that it doesn't fail. They've been so big and momentous that it makes me want the next risk, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You got to be, I think, borderline crazy or
Yes.
fucked up a little bit because,
Yes, 100%.
like
100%.
Here,
Absolutely right.
When I was in a bad position financially on my personal side, I had to make a decision to say, hey, I'm going to stop paying my credit cards.
yeah.
And whenever I made that decision, I talked to somebody about it, and it was a business decision
doubt.
more than anything. It was not I could pay it. Yeah, I could, but I'm not going to. And
Right.
here's why.
Yep.
Right.
And then when you said you have to have guts, well, the phone calls, the harassment, the hate
course.
that I received
course.
after that, and I used that National Debt Relief Company at the time when I did that, and the lady on the phone was like, hey, just so you know, you're going to get calls and people are going to harass you. And the conversations I had were like attorneys saying, you piece of shit, start paying. Like I was like, holy fuck. And then I just realized, just stop answering.
Yeah, right.
And then you're like, okay, this is what I decided by making a decision
Right.
that I'm going to put myself through this and have the abuse, have the collection notices, and realize that guess what? It doesn't mean I'm dead.
Right.
So
you made a business decision.
yeah, and you have to have the guts to stick with your decision and not second guess it, because you made the decision. Okay, I've already faulted on this. There's nothing I could do now, so keep going that way.
Yep,
And that's hard.
That's an important point. Which you
Fucking
said
hard.
is to not second guess.
Yeah.
because I've watched a lot of entrepreneurs make a decision, make that risk decision. Do the cost benefit analysis. Say I'm going to do this, and then a week later they second guess themselves.
Yeah, you almost can't do that.
Right, exactly. And
know?
I've done that myself. I know that, but it's just when you learn not to do it, that's how you be. Because you've got to have that level. You've got to have a set of balls, basically, that you're willing to just walk into a fire and hope you come out okay.
You see, some people get off on that. Like I kind of get off on that
For sure.
Like
Of course.
I if you told me that I got 5 deals going and 2 of them are like hanging in the balance, and I got this other thing going on, and I'm going to get back in the guitar business, or I have a negotiation coming with the building owner here over my rent, whatever it is. If it's all coming down on me at one time, I'm not saying it's always pleasurable.
Yeah.
but I kind of like
It sucks.
yes.
It sucks. There's no way it sucks.
Well, yes,
But you enjoy it.
I
Yes.
kind of like sadistically enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So both of you gentlemen have taken your entrepreneurial endeavors now to a more complex area, which I don't have to play around with. And now you've got staff.
Yeah.
You've got staff. So now you've added the element of not just self-management, but group management to your sphere, your world. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Rocco.
It's definitely been it's been a challenge. Not in a bad way, but it's been a motivation because I think I might have told you a story last time, when my wife and I and the kids were bringing a new TV down to my office, and Mia, my assistant, works for me, and I just hired, and I had David, who was working part-time, and then Matt, my new guy that works for me, who's full-time, and it's like we pulled in the office, and I had this anxiety attack moment where it's just like, holy shit, like a year ago it was just me. I only had to be responsible for me. Now I have 3 other people that I have to make sure their salaries are paid before mine. And it was this moment of like, oh shit. But then it was also that super motivating moment. It was like, okay, like I now, because I have that protector mentality, like that's just how I'm wired. Like I want to protect the people around me. Like I'll go to battle, I'll step in front of the bus. So I look at this as they are my family. Like they are part of they are trusting me with helping them succeed. So I look at it as like that is the ultimate responsibility. Outside of my wife and kids and my family, my ultimate responsibility is making sure they're taken care of. They're paid well, they're happy, and they're thriving. Like I want to mentor them all to make sure that we can grow this to the level I know we can grow. But it's a constant challenge, right? Because you're dealing with, I have to understand how to motivate people.
No doubt.
I have to understand how they're wired. And I figured that out, but it takes some time to do that. And it's a challenge. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced the same type of things with the people that you have working for you.
Yeah, for me, it's very difficult because the way I was raised was, no fault of anybody, but my dad was a disciplinarian. First and foremost, he was a dad, not a friend, ever, right? And he also, construction world. So, he managed employees that they weren't as well polished. There was you could swear more, you could do more things. So from an early age, I heard, nasty words, I heard swear words, I heard all that stuff. So I just became immune to it. And, not everybody reacts well to being direct. And I think that was always my hardest thing that I'm always trying to grow is like people don't respond to certain things that I was forced to respond to. And I never got praise on doing good stuff. I always got, reamed out whenever I fucked up because being good was expected.
Yeah.
And so that was very difficult for me early on. Was same philosophy as I put my team before me without any question, and I always will. I've always hired the wrong people when I started. I went through probably 20 employees in 5 years.
Wow.
And these were, we didn't have structure in place. We were a startup company and still relatively are. And I hired people that weren't local. So I had to, and I didn't have the money to fly and train them and do things. So a lot of the stuff was virtual or I would try to meet them when I could. And I also gave people an opportunity then, I probably shouldn't have. Or, I gave them too many opportunities to keep being the same person that they are. And that's something I've learned as well. People don't change their colors. They are who they are. So I've struggled immensely with bringing on the right people, but I also have a great group of people that work with me now. And what I've realized through this was I just never brought on the right people. And in the beginning in business, you have these grander visions of I wanted 2 to 3 sales reps in every city, and I wanted it fast, and I wanted it now, when we didn't even have anything perfected locally.
Yeah.
And I've also realized, in the beginning it was, hey, hire fast and fire slow.
Yeah.
And then I've since flipped that mentality. It's you hire very slow.
Yes.
You take your damn time and you fire immediately.
Yeah.
And that's difficult too, because I want people to win and I want people to be successful. I don't want to fire anybody. I don't. I want everybody to come on board because I know that if they come on board, they're going to live an amazing fucking lifestyle. It's not going to be easy to get there. And in 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to be like, holy fuck, when you get into your, Lamborghini, your Ferrari, your $1 million house, or maybe not. Maybe you just are able to live your lifestyle.
Right.
Then that's the reward.
Yeah.
Right.
But to get there, man, like you just gotta figure out a way, and it's hard. It's really, really hard.
The biggest struggle, I think, and I don't know if you face this struggle with employees, like I had to take a step back and realize that no one's going to care as much as me. No one's going to work as hard as me, and I can't expect people to. Like, I can't expect the people that work for me to be there longer than I am.
Yeah.
It's my business. Now, if they become a partner and they have ownership, then yeah, I would expect that level. But and that was hard for me at first, right? Because I'm thinking like, well, you know, why wouldn't you want to work as hard as I do? But it's just a different mentality. And I think understanding, I want to make sure that I create the right culture. And I've had this discussion with my team, you know, as we're planning out next year, and we just brought on an internal marketing person that we hired part-time. I said, you know, my goal is not to be a 100-lawyer firm. You know, I want to be a small boutique firm. I said, but if for some reason the world takes us to be that 100-lawyer firm, those 100 lawyers that are there are all going to believe in this culture.
Right.
And if you're not enjoying what you're doing while you're here, if you're not okay with F-bombs and just having fun, well, you won't fit in here. And that's, to me, I think when you bring on employees as a business owner, right, our job is to create the culture. Like, my job is to set the pace. You know, I have to come into the office and set the pace for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year. You know, when we've talked about our goals for next year, you know, I've said, here's the revenue goal, and that's not counting anything you guys bring in. So that's the pace I'm setting for myself, and I'm just hoping it motivates the people that work for me to push themselves just as hard. So it's about that. I think the biggest challenge as a business owner when you have a team is creating the right culture. And like you said, if the people don't fit the culture, getting rid of them fast, because they can just poison the well. And
that's the most devastating thing. And, you know, like, even if you break it down to an analogy, right? If the core of the culture is the foundation of a skyscraper, the highest that it can go is based off of how sturdy the bottom is. And, you know, we had times where we had 5 or 6 people at the same time. Everybody's doing well, and then we had one that was just like, fuck. Every time you see their name pop up, every time you'd see them in the store, at a meeting or a dinner, you're just like, fuck this person. And it wasn't anything of who they are, it's just how they handled themselves. And that person that's toxic ruins the entire vibe of the culture. It is. It really is.
It truly is.
It really is.
Yes.
And that's by far the hardest part about this is, you know, and especially when you don't have cash or capital and you're relying on people to produce, and that's what funds the business. It's hard.
It is. Absolutely.
The toughest thing for me that led me to the belief that I want to maintain a lifestyle business. I don't want to, at this point in my life, don't want to grow anything. It's just a decision. You know, it's not a good or bad decision. You just make a life decision. I was given advice at the start of my entrepreneurial journey with guitars that I needed to decide early, according to the advice I'd received, which I think was pretty solid. Do you want an organization? Do you want to grow an organization, something bigger than yourself, or do you want the largest lifestyle business you can handle? I didn't really understand what that meant. I want the largest lifestyle business. I don't want to be responsible for anybody. I came from a corporate American environment. I was a salesperson. I don't want to manage anybody. And then you see what the potential is, and I didn't dip my foot into the pond. I dipped my foot in, but I didn't jump into the pond. So I was dabbling with growing an organization, but still yearning to just always be in control of everything and maintain everything as a lifestyle business. And I just couldn't do both. Hiring Dan, hiring a couple other people to come in and do things. I couldn't entrust my employees my vision. I thought, no one can do every aspect of this business better than me. I can't trust anybody to come into this organization. And I realized I am not wired to manage an organization. It's just not how I'm wired. And I think it was a mistake. I think had I been able to step back and brought some key people in, I probably would still be in that business today. And something completely different could have happened there. But it's just really being able to be humble enough, which I wasn't. Having the humility that I don't know it all, and there's so much I could learn from other people. Case in point, marketing firms and things like that. But also entrusting other human beings to, if you're hiring them, you must think enough about them, think of enough about them. Let them do their thing. I just couldn't get there. So I grew the largest lifestyle business I could, but man, was it limiting when I look back now.
It's a hard. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, think about sports teams.
Yeah.
And, even the Steelers when they had Antonio Brown and how detrimental that was to the team.
Yep.
It's the same exact concept in business.
Absolutely. It really is. And it's but I feel like once you find the right team, like I know right now I have the right team.
You're unstoppable right now.
Everything's just clicking.
Yeah.
Right? And I have total faith and trust in the people that work for me, and they'll make mistakes, I'll make mistakes, and that's okay. And I now have to, as the business owner and the leader, and I've told myself that next year, like this year, I would say I've spent 70% of my time doing the work, 30% managing and developing business.
Okay.
I want to move that to 50-50. And now that I have the right team in place, I'm confident that I can. Because I think as you get into the position where you're managing organizations, that needs to be your goal as the leader, right? You need to manage the organization and grow the organization as opposed to working in the organization.
Right.
And that's
your
a
role
challenge.
changed.
My role has changed. Like I spent this morning going in, I had a call with 2 clients, but I was managing my finances. I was, updating our records, updating our accounts, updating our billables, seeing who we need to send invoice. Like that's the stuff I need to do. But, now I have the time to do that because the 2 things I needed to get done today, I gave to my guy, Matt, to handle. So it's like, it helps you, but you have to be wired that way. You have to be wired the way where, like you said, that wasn't who you were, right?
I don't think so. I always wonder about the possibility of what could have been. Right.
Yeah, but the same token though, like I from an entrepreneurial standpoint, who cares?
Yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Because it led you to a different path, and
no question.
That's why I
no regrets.
I don't fight anything. Like
no regrets.
Yep.
There's shit I could have done different and better, and you'd learn about it, and you at least think about it for the future because it was something like that will surface again. But this has led to a lot of other things, and who knows where this leads to?
Right.
And,
and my thing too, I want to look at it as, can my part of my story be helpful to those thinking about doing it?
Yeah.
And my advice in that regard would be is you really got to figure out early on and don't half-ass it. Either be a lifestyle business or grow an organization.
Yeah.
One or the other, because it's really hard to straddle the fence. I'm not saying it can't be done. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And you got to understand why you're doing it too. Like that's what I had to go through. Right? I had to say, well, why do I want to grow an organization as opposed to just being? There's a lot of lawyers out there that are solo lawyers that make a decent living. I knew I wanted to grow an organization to build something no one else could.
Is it about the vision of doing law differently?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was about, I saw the way we were doing things. I saw it as a different way of approaching the practice of law. And I knew that I could have a bigger impact on, just people in general and clients and the business world by building an organization and mentoring people to do it the way I do it. Like let's be about service to others. Let's be about being the best lawyers, the kindest lawyers, the people that will shoot straight with someone that we're not. It's not about the money. It's about the relationship. And if I can build a team that sees it that way, I looked at the impact I could have on the world, and that's what I want to create. It's about impact to me. Okay. I could have been a solo and just stayed, and it was great. Like it was, I didn't have to worry about anybody, just an assistant and myself, and that was it. But I have bigger aspirations, and I saw a bigger picture.
Okay. Do you ever feel that at some point you, through success and through smart business and smart marketing, that you may get to the point where your creativity or your creative vision could be limited or diluted through what the corporation turns into? Because that was a fear I had. Like Boogie Street, as kind of corny as this is going to sound, we had the Boogie Street experience, and that was from the moment you talked to us online, ordered the guitar, talked to us about the guitar, to the moment you opened that case up and you got it. There was T-shirts and hats and stickers and a personal letter from me and a hang tag and a custom case, and they were overwhelmed with like things they've never seen out of a guitar company.
Right.
That was our experience. And my thing was that coupled with the fact that I wanted to make small runs of guitars, 15, 20, higher end, that I wouldn't be able to do that uniqueness once I expanded the company. And that was always, I think, maybe even subliminally in the back of my mind, stabbing my attempts or sabotaging my attempts to grow it bigger than that. Does that make any sense? Do you ever worry that your vision may be diluted? And I go to him because he has that creative fashion thing.
Yep.
Now, of course, you can say, well, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, so I can probably be okay with part of my vision being taken away from me.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, that creativity is so personal.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, every product that leaves has my name on it.
Right.
So if it does get to that point, it's my fault. And how I prevent that from happening is, back to Rocco's side, is the culture. And if you bring in people, like right now, I have two amazing people that one's running the men's side of the business, one's running the women's side of the business. And that's the start of what we're trying to get things going. And both of those people put the effort in and care to a pretty good extent, not to the point that I do, but they really believe in the purpose of what's happening. And my job has been to continue to coach them and show them what's happening and to be transparent with them, because at this stage in business, if you're not transparent, you're never going to get the trust of the people that are involved.
Yeah.
So as we continue to scale and as we continue to grow, it's just, the additional people that we bring on, they just have to fit. And it's going to be inevitable that we're going to run into hiccups with people that don't. That person may stay for a day. That person may stay for 10 years. It really depends on the situation, but you have to limit how much they can actually hurt the business from a scheme of things, right?
Okay.
So I'm not worried about it in any of that stuff at all, personally. Yeah. I'm just not. And a lot of that is because I'm not really worried about anything, which is really crazy as an entrepreneur.
No, I get that. Worry is probably the wrong word. But let me give you an example in your industry. So I've always been a big fan of Ralph Lauren clothes.
Yep.
It's just something about that line generally appeals to me and still does.
Yep.
But I wonder, Ralph Lauren, is it Lauren or Lauren?
It's Lauren, but everybody's. I thought
it was Lauren.
I was going to ask that exact question.
Yeah, I think to hear, he's got a good story.
It's incredible.
I think his real name is Lifshitz or something.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, I wonder how that current collection, how that really identifies with his original vision of the company. Now, I'm thinking it's probably uniquely to him, because he's real conservative clothing, pretty similar.
Yep.
But I take designers like Calvin Klein, being a heavyweight modern style designer, Michael Kors to a more recent. Once those organizations get real big, I mean, does the Calvin Klein collection for men in 2021, is that really representative of what Calvin Klein's initial vision for his company was? Knowing that styles change and ebb and flow of in, out. But you see what I mean? Like, is it real? Is it really Calvin Klein's vision in 2021 to be buying that blazer? Yeah.
So I guess the couple ways to look at that is there's no way we're going to know without knowing, which we could find out, company revenues, things of that nature, to see the trends of the direction they're going from a growth standpoint, right? So why I bring that up is because as you evolve as a company, you tweak with what makes sense and what's working in the market and what dictates that to provide more of a product to increase more revenue in that capacity. So companies shift as they grow. My personality and my style changes. I wear things now that I never would have worn a year ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 20 years ago, all that stuff, right?
Okay.
So as I continue to progress in the future, my style is going to continue to evolve as times change, as society shifts. And, maybe that evolves along with other society, or maybe I try to just be a trailblazer, a pioneer in some capacity. So, from those standpoints, I personally, I thought higher of the brand of Calvin Klein, for instance, when I was younger. I would never, I try not to buy anything that's not mine anyway now, but as I started getting into my clothing brand, I still wore other people's stuff and still do to an extent, rarely, but I would never buy that product. And it's just the messaging is shifting, the culture is shifting, all the products are shifting. I think it's obviously a well-received brand and will be for the time to come. But, I don't know anybody internally there to make that decision on why they're going the route. I'm not educated enough to make a statement. All I can do is kind of assume and guess and put myself in that position as I continue to grow. And I think it's just purely, is the business owner still involved? To what level are they involved?
Right.
How well has the the foundation of the company been instilled into that? How well has that been maintained as time has gone on? Because things can shift. Like Michael Kors, you can get a thing purses at the outlets and stuff now. I think Michael Kors is a junk brand now, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and especially if Michael at that time says, "Cool, this is where I want to take it." Because he's accomplished things at some stage, and so it's right.
It's fascinating to me.
It is.
Like it really
It
is.
is.
Like I think about like Chanel.
Yeah.
The design house Chanel has done everything they possibly can to keep that brand at the highest level of prestige.
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton burns their product that they have excess with.
Wow.
They burn it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so nobody can get it.
Interesting.
Well, it creates exclusivity, limited. But then the other, you take a Michael Kors, they probably had an overrun of garments and they goes to the not Walmart, but it goes to outlets.
Yeah.
And it's just a retail clothing merchandising. I'm sure you could talk rings about it. It's just fascinating to me.
It's a cool evolution to see what happens with everything, and why do brands make decisions that go certain ways, and why do they start at a certain target, and it all comes down to like for instance my brand, right? Like I like high end shit. I like nice stuff. I prefer to spend more money on a product than less. That's I don't care if and Derek, my business partner, he'll buy the knockoff AirPods and then they don't fucking work after one or two uses.
It's a mindset.
I would just rather spend money on that. And, I spent $25 on a dozen cookies the other day from Mariah Carey. Ironically, just launched a cookie company. They came to Pittsburgh, and I was on Grubhub, and I ordered those. And I'm trying to start a cookie business as well. And why I bring that up is because Derek's like, "There's no way people are going to spend this money." I'm like, Derek, I just paid with shipping or with Uber Eats. I paid $32 for a dozen normal cookies, and I would do it again every weekend. And he was like, "That's absolutely the most absurd thing ever." But that's what's beautiful about this is everybody's different.
Exactly.
And I personally live my life that I pay for convenience. I pay for exclusivity. I pay for shit that not everybody can have. And I want to. It's a decision that I made.
There's a market for everything.
Oh,
there really is.
We talked about it off air. Like Americans love uniqueness, and I built a small company on unique guitars. I mean, just things people couldn't buy, and I saw immediately in the beginning, like people just don't want. I mean, there's the vintage guitar market where people are looking for that 65, which are very rare because there's not a lot in existence anymore. But the younger buyers who weren't going to spend that kind of money still wanted something cool and different or limited, something that their buddy really can't easily go acquire down the street.
Well, that Patrick Bet David gentleman, he's an entrepreneur, one of my favorites. He just sold. He just sold 2 baseball cards. He bought them for $500,000 2 years ago and sold them for $2.1 million.
It's a business decision.
There are people that sell Pokemon cards.
My son was just having this conversation with me last night, like $30,000 for a fucking Pokemon card.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. But again, I think there's a market for everything.
Well, shoes are a big market now. Something that I don't understand any of that, but apparently athletic shoes are a big like people horse trade app.
I mean it's nuts.
Athletic shoes.
I mean, there's like you said, there's a market, and you pay. I'm like you, I pay for convenience. And coming back to your point about the creativity of the business owner, right? I think it's the business owner's job to maintain the creativity. Like if as I build an organization, if I lose the creativity I brought to what I do, then that's my own fault.
Right.
I look at it as now that I have people to do a lot of the shit, I can become more creative.
Even better.
Exactly. And focus more on developing the business, growing the business, becoming more strategic, and having that vision.
Right.
Because now I don't have to worry about all of the day-to-day.
Got it.
And that's where I think business owners, they do themselves a disservice. If they lose creativity because an organization has grown, that's just their own fault, in my opinion. Like you have a team for you, right?
Yep.
It allows you to not have to worry about going out and doing fittings. You can actually think strategically about what's the future vision, what's the forward-looking vision, what do we want to take the brand, like how do we come up with the casual line, like that type of stuff. Like that allowed you to do that, probably having those people that you didn't have to worry about the day-to-day so much.
Well, and that's like even with Alvin and Krista, like any lead that comes into me, I just pass off to them, and that was hard because it was I had one buddy that, it pisses you off because he just, the other day, I called him just about something else, and he's not bought a suit off me yet. And, he's in the finance world, sharp looking gentleman and everything. And I connected him with Alvin, and then they didn't end up getting the suit done or anything. So I called the guy a week later and just talking about something else. And he's like, hey, man, I just, want to let you know I'm a little disappointed that you big timed me the other day. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, fuck you. That's literally where my mind goes.
I get it.
And and as a leader of the company,
great.
the reason I pushed it to Alvin is, one, my time isn't valued at selling an $800 suit anymore. It's just not.
Exactly.
Certain people I still will, but I'm in charge of growing the company and being better. That's number one. Number two is, we've gotten crushed this year. So that means Alvin has made less money this year. Yeah. So the fact that I want to have my teammate go and sell a suit to you so he can make fucking money to pay for his daughter and his wife, that's why. Exactly. So that mentality of big timing, go fuck yourself, and that's how I feel. And it pisses me off because it's like every decision I make is to the best interest of the client and the best interest of the business. And I can't provide the service that Alvin can provide anymore. I just can't. So for me, working with you, as cool as that may be for you, or whatever reason you want it to, you're not going to get as good of a service as you will with Alvin for that specific project. Now, there are other people, that first timers that I work with, because I'm trying to, who is the person? What type of network do they have? How can they help me down the road?
You need to make a business decision.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's weird. It's just weird.
And that I've experienced that too with clients. Like when I get to, so if I have like someone like Matt or David who work for me, if I have one of them call the client back or handle something, it's like, it's a balancing act. So I got to make sure, I don't want them to think I'm pushing them off.
Right.
But I know that it's more efficient for them to do the work, and I have to look at, how do I run an efficient business to maximize value, maximize revenue, and make sure my people are taken care of, and make sure my clients are taken care of. And I wouldn't put somebody on a client if I didn't think they could handle them extremely well in the same way I do. But it's a balance. There are certain clients that I know that I'm the one that has to do the work because they hired me and they trust me, and they're not ready to work with anybody else yet. I don't want to lose the client. So it's a balancing act.
And it's not like you don't appreciate I appreciate the shit out of everybody I don't care if you buy a $140 shirt off. I appreciate the shit out of you.
Absolutely.
But understand that I am in the business to grow a business and to also provide for other people.
Exactly.
I have to now make decisions at this stage that I'm in at what is the best benefit for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And me selling that suit to that specific person was not the best benefit.
Exactly.
And if you don't like that, I don't care.
Yeah.
You don't see eye to eye with me.
Yeah.
We don't see eye to eye on business, and I don't care if you buy off of us anymore. I just don't.
Right.
And and I want you to. I really want you to, because I know how good our product is. But I also I don't work for you. And even though I believe we work for all of our clients, in a specific instance like that, no, like this is a joint effort. And you, as a quote friend of mine or supporter of the business, should be even more understanding the fact that I sent Alvin to work with you and not doing it because I'm a good fucking person trying to help other people succeed.
Well, they might not be, even then to reevaluate your relationship there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a great situation. It's somebody that I thought that there's some opportunity to we can mutually benefit from the relationship. And in our 4-year existence, he's never purchased from me. And I've never pushed any clients to his way either, because it wasn't the right fit just yet.
Right.
But now, where my thought is, listen, I'm soaring and the company is growing like crazy, and the people that I'm now meeting are people that he's going to want to meet. And unfortunately, the way that he treated that situation has just literally...
relationships are everything. It goes back to the relationship game.
Everything.
If you cannot deal in kindness, and even as important as kindness at times is mutual respect.
That's it.
I mean, if I have to give bad news to somebody, there's thousands of ways of doing it, right? You're going to do it with a feather. You're going to do it with a sledgehammer. You do it with a sledgehammer, that might be convenient for you at the moment for giving the bad news, but it is not going to leave good results.
So true.
My thing is, I just don't understand where if you have a problem, pick up the phone and call, because here's the situation.
Does anybody do that anymore?
Very rarely. Very
Texting
rarely.
is a poor excuse for having frank conversations.
I can't.
Right?
Well, especially like if you have an issue with somebody, and this is the key. This is personal. This is business. This is relationship. Talk. In a world where people are dying for interactions in some capacity, like,
good point.
Hey, pick up the phone. Hey, David, I just want to let you know, here's what I thought about this situation, and I feel like you big time me. Oh, okay, cool. I understand where you're coming from for sure. But if you really knew who I was, you knew that's not the case. Yeah. So that just shows me you really don't know who I am.
Yeah.
But now that you're questioning my integrity and who I am, let me explain this to you.
Right.
Okay, your job has not been impacted. Your life has not been negatively impacted. We have been.
Yeah.
So my job as a leader of this brand and this company is to take care of my team first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And by me saying, hey, go buy a suit off of him instead of me, there's a reason behind it. It's not because I don't like you. It's not because I don't appreciate you. Right. It's because I have an agenda to grow my business and to take care of my people. And if you can't get behind that, get the fuck out of the way, because I don't care.
Yep.
Right.
The old me would have cared, and I would have taken it personally.
Yeah.
Not me now.
Well, that doesn't serve you well.
No.
Not at all.
Not mentally, not emotionally.
Yeah.
It's not,
and I'm it frustrates me. I don't want to. I don't want you to think
it's silly.
Yeah, it bothers me because I know my intentions, and my intentions are misconstrued, and that's the problem that I have.
But you have to look at, like, I think you might have posted a couple weeks ago, if you're offended, that's your problem, right? I think if he was offended by that, that's his problem.
Right.
Like, he doesn't.
Things that pet people mind.
Well, right, because it's like you were doing, like, you had a reason why you were doing something.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to take the time to understand. It was a very egocentric point of view, and I think that's where relationships fail.
Yeah.
People get very egocentric. It's all about me. Like, why aren't you taking care of me? It's like, no, like, look at it from my perspective. Like, you can differ. We can have differing opinions, but if you're not even willing to take a step to the side and look at it from my point of view, this will never fucking work.
Right.
Never.
Yeah, in business in general
No.
too. It's
in life.
When you decided to grow this business too, how much of it for you, like in your instance, was to take the concept of law done differently and client, and just the way you bill was different.
Yeah.
Everything's different.
Yeah.
How much was the purpose of growing something like this to take that vision and expand on it? And then how much of it was to, how do I say this without sounding too crass?
No.
How much of it is a money component to grow something and increase your personal wealth and your lifestyle?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you... I'm
I'm
going to ask you the same question in a second. But
it's a good question, and it's
how do you weigh those, or do you have to constantly weigh them as you move forward?
You're constantly weighing them, but I look at it, if I build what I want to build and how I see it being built, the money will just take care of itself.
Okay.
Like, I don't look at, if I have $100 million or $10 million, it doesn't matter to me. It's what am I creating and what am I building it? And this vision I have for what we've created and what we're going to continue to create, the money becomes the byproduct to me. And that's where I had to shift the focus. I had to get away from thinking about the money as the way to keep score to thinking as the money is the byproduct of doing what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And once I started thinking that way is when everything started to click. It was really about creating something different, building. And I approach, and I've talked about this before, like, there are lawyers that practice law, right? I look at myself as I'm an entrepreneur that sells legal services. It's a completely different mindset. So I've approached what I do as a business.
Right.
And understanding marketing, sales. Like, I'm a salesman, right? I sell legal services. I have to be really fucking good at what I do, but that's what I do. And when I approached it that way, I just always knew that money will be the byproduct. And whatever that number becomes, great. And I have high aspirations for myself, and it'll, to me, it's about legacy. Like, I want to build a legacy.
Okay.
I want to build a legacy in my firm, in my family, and, help everyone around me. Like, help the people that have come into my life. Because I believe everybody comes into your life for a reason. I believe we all meet each other for reasons. And that's part of really what the vision is being able to, how can I help those around me? Because, a rising tide lifts all ships. And I truly believe that. And the older I've gotten, the more I believe that. When I was in my early to mid 30s, it was about me. I didn't really give a shit. And now I've gotten to the point where it's like, it's not about me. It's about the bigger vision. It's about those around me. And that's kind of how I see it. So it is a balancing act, but I've really just put the money aside because I know it'll come. And it has. I mean, we've grown exponentially in the past year and a half, like
Yeah.
more than I could have ever imagined. And it was all because I stopped thinking about it and focusing on it, and
Yeah.
just focused on how we do business.
And I think everything Rocco said, obviously spot on. I mean, that's the foundation and fundamentals of being a good business person, but more importantly, being a good person, right? Then the other side of the equation is, you know, the trust in yourself and the belief in yourself. And, you know, my entire life, I've believed in myself from a standpoint of, I can be the best at this if I wanted, or I could be the most successful at this if I wanted, or I can make the most money at this if I wanted. And again, they're all choices, and then you figure out how do you get there by the choice that you've made. So whenever it comes down to success and money and how much you're making or the opportunity, I have zero doubt in my mind within the next 5 years, 10 years, I could take my clothing brand to 20 million, 50 million, $100 million. No doubt in my mind. Now, people listening may be like, well, no fucking chance. Well, there's also people that listen that said I'd never be able to sell suits to anybody. There's also people that I'd never get in front of celebrities and then this and that. And it's like, okay, cool. Again, I don't care about those people. I also don't care about the money that's coming. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to be very wealthy, and I can't wait to take that wealth and help other people with that wealth, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's people in need. That's the purpose. That's an additional purpose of why I work really, really hard. So from all those standpoints, it's just going back to what we said before, being patient and understanding that it's coming and understanding that it's going to come fast. Even though it may take 15, 20 years, it's going to be fast. And that's what I'm understanding even more with everything is I will be making millions and millions and millions of dollars every month. I also don't care if I do or if I don't. And that's the secret sauce, and that is that's coming. It's going to be fucking awesome when it gets here, but I don't care. And when it does get here, I want to help other people even more.
All right, last question before we wrap this up.
There's
actually one question, too many questions in the same sentence. One statement, too many questions in there. I want you both to define your definition of success and wealth, and are they interconnected?
You want to take that one, or
I know what mine is. I'll take it. Success and wealth to me are related. It's freedom. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, I could have stayed at a law firm out of law school. I could have stayed in corporate America and done well and made money and, you know, been able to retire very well. But I had to report to someone else. To me, success is being able to get up and do whatever the fuck I want to do. Like, I could come here today and sit here for 3 hours and talk to you fine gentlemen and not have to worry about anything. Like, that's like, success is being able to craft your life the way you want to, with no one else telling you how to do it. And wealth is part of that, you know, because there's the financial piece of wealth that, in my mind, allows for that freedom.
Right.
So they're interconnected in my mind. And you know, with wealth, I don't think they're the same. I think, you know, you can define success without wealth, but in my mind, wealth creates that freedom, which is how I define success. If that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, in wealth is you're saying the concept of wealth is also multi-dimensional.
Yeah, it's not just money, right? Like, you know, to be like people say there's rich people and there's wealthy people. They're defining that based upon dollars, right?
Okay.
They're saying, okay, there's rich people, you have a couple $1 million. Wealthy people have, you know, tens of hundreds of generational wealth.
Right.
To me, I look at that's one way to define wealth, but I believe a wealthy person could have $100,000 in the bank, but be able to do whatever they want because the way they live their life, and that's the choices they've made. Like, I like nice things, so I choose to make more money so I can buy nicer things or do nicer things or let my son and daughters and wife do whatever they want. That's the choice I make.
Right.
So wealth to me is not a certain amount of money or a number. It's the ability to do certain things. That's how I look at it.
It's an enabler.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is.
And I would agree with that. And I look at it a little bit different, but it's all the same. And Rocco will certainly agree. You know, I look at wealth and success have nothing to do with money whatsoever. And again, freedom, which is what he mentioned before, the opportunity to do things. But I think whenever you go through the entrepreneurial journey and you understand how difficult it is and you understand how hard it is, you realize the most value that you get from it is the education that you received from it.
Yeah.
And you understand that there's such a bigger, greater purpose that we're all here, whatever anybody's belief is on that situation. You realize that we are here in comparison to the world and how long it's been around, a nanosecond in that time frame, and how really irrelevant we all are as human beings. That wealth and success is just defined as how do you handle things? How do you treat people? What do you do for others? And whenever you switch to that mindset, because I didn't have that mindset, I've always been good to people and I've always wanted people to be successful. I hate seeing people struggle. I hate seeing people in pain and hurt and all that stuff. But man, like my sister just had a baby yesterday, so now it's my fifth. And I have two nieces and three nephews now, and it's just, that's wealth, right?
Yeah.
That's success.
Yeah.
The fact that I can see them soon and I can go buy them something, and it doesn't have to. It's the thought of the gift. It's the idea of the gift.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's taught me so much more throughout this whole thing. And that's coming from the voice of somebody that defined success off of money my entire life until I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And now that's the furthest thing from success for me. And same thing, the wealth being, wealthy for generations, being able to take care of people. That's what I used to consider that. And obviously that's the case, right? That's the true definition of that in the scheme of things. But the philosophy side of it is the fact that true wealth is literally appreciating what you have. True success is appreciating what you have. Yeah. And I think this year solidified that for me even more, and the support that we've had from the community, the love and attention we've got from different businesses, just different friends, people that I've met. I'm more fulfilled now than anything. Yeah. Anything in my entire life. I've made more money in the pandemic than I ever have in my entire life. Right. And I don't care. Like the friendships that I've made along the way, the fact that I can at any day drop what I'm doing and go see a friend or family because I want to. It's not about the cars that you drive. Like I have a 2015 car. And the old me, I was getting new cars every 2 to 3 years. Right. Now I'm like, cool. It's a nice car. Keep it. Like fucking put the money to somebody else.
Just freedom, man. Yeah. Just like freedom for me. I don't know at what point in my life, but when I had enough money that I didn't have to worry about next month's bills, whenever that year was, then I realized, wow, this is what it's like to be ahead of the game a little bit, because I had never been that way prior. Yeah. I had outspent my earnings because I bought everything. Yeah. Yep. You're young and dumb, you do that. You buy everything. Yeah. You're month to month wealthy, right? Yeah. And then the next month you're poor, especially in sales if you don't sell. Yep. But once I started putting money away and I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck, that to me was just being wealthy. To me, that was my definition, because it was freedom. No, absolutely. And I could go do things on the spur of the moment that I wanted to do. And that I'd look around and see friends and families and acquaintances who were still working 9-to-5 jobs that I hope they liked. I'm guessing a lot of them didn't like it, but they didn't have that freedom to get out from their cube and go at 2:30 in the afternoon and just drive their car away. Yeah. They were confined. It was almost like being, and I lived that life for a while. It's like being in a cage. Yeah. And when you have that experience, you know what you don't want. Yeah. So for me, it wasn't, wealth this day. I feel I'm wealthy now because I, relatively speaking, have my health. Yep. People around me, the care, and it sounds a little esoteric, but man, I don't take that stuff for granted. I think it just comes with age. You just realize that the relationships are so much more valuable every single year. Yeah,
that's a good point. And that's a part of wealth is the relationships. And just this conversation just now just made that click. It's really about big piece of it is the relationships you have in life. For sure. I think it's, and as you become an entrepreneur, you develop different relationships. Yeah. My circle has changed somewhat over the years, but that's a very important piece, the relationships you develop with people.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's everything.
That's life.
I've become closer with people that I've met throughout building a business.
I bet.
And then anybody I've met in my entire life. And I feel like I have a network of people now in my life that if anybody needed anything, I could solve every single problem for anybody. Yeah, I really can, and I'm willing to do that. And guess what? The benefit of that is I'm helping the person in need. I'm helping the other business. I'm helping the other knowledgeable person. It's connecting all the dots. And that's wealth.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
There's no question about that, man. Yeah. I remember when I closed down the guitar business, all of my day in, day out contacts customers, clients, and friends were all over the world. I didn't do any local business. We had no state sales number. We didn't sell intra-state. We shipped everything out of state.
Yeah.
So over a 10 or 15 year period, I really didn't have a big circle locally. I remember when that shut down and I wasn't going to be in regular contact with these folks. I'm like, wow, I don't think I really even know anybody around. I didn't feel very wealthy. So, but I set out to meet people here in Pittsburgh and expand my sphere, which we did. And then it's obviously this show. And I feel much more wealthy today than I did the day 7 years ago I shut down that business when I didn't really have a sphere at all in southwestern PA, if it makes any sense. So
I think wealth, to simplify it, that if you look at like wealth and success, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it is.
Yeah.
It really is. I know some people that are very wealthy and they're the biggest piles of shit I've ever met in my entire life.
Or they're miserable.
When it all becomes about the money, when their definition of wealth is solely tied to money, the outcome is really never that good.
No, you're right.
Because the human experience gets set aside. And without humans, I mean, the money's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, if you don't have good like I don't understand like how people, that can have all this money but then don't have family or friends.
Like you used to call them spinsters in the old days.
What? I don't get it. Like life is about the experience, right? Spending it with people you love and spending it with, sharing ideas, sharing thoughts. Like that's life.
Yeah.
And that is wealth. And just when I'd say it's the freedom to do that whenever you want. Like that's what I love about it. Like it's not about the money. It's about the freedom to have these relationships and be able to sit here and talk and do these things. That's true wealth.
Yep.
My one of my truest friends, Jim, he's been a corporate employee forever for the same firm, does very well. He's not an entrepreneur, but he said money means one thing to me and one thing only, and it's freedom.
Yeah.
I earn a good wage, above average wage, and that is provided my family, a good life, and all that. He goes, but for me personally, it's freedom.
Yeah.
And granted, I'm still tied to my organization to a degree.
Yeah.
But I don't have to worry about a lot of the things that most Americans worry about because they either live paycheck to paycheck regardless of how much they make.
Yeah.
Or they just, their certain life circumstance might have dealt them a tough blow, whatever it is. But most Americans don't have that kind of freedom. So the money to me does not equate trinkets. It equates my ability to breathe and to do what the fuck I want.
Yep.
And I've never forgotten him saying that. And he was not an entrepreneur. He was a well-salaried corporate employee, but he realized that's what money meant to him.
For sure.
That's exactly it. It's that freedom, man. That's it.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and do this again.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, friends. We are out.
You're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.